debating the resolution the U.S. federal government should require food to be labeled for GMOs. Our definitions are the following. Require is to have need of. Label is a word or phrase indicating that what follows belongs in a particular category or classification, and GMOs are genetically modified organisms or microorganisms whose genetic material has been altered by means of genetic engineering. All of these came from dictionary.com. The new resolution is the U.S. federal government should require the FDA to label all food products with any ingredients containing a GMO. Some basic background information. According to the website gmoinside.org, the timeline for GMOs begins in 1980 when the first GMO patent was issued. Then 2 years later, in 1982, the FDA approves the first GMO humulin, which is insulin produced by the genetically engineered E. coli bacteria that appeared on the market. In 1994, GMO hits grocery stores when the U.S. Food and Drug Administration approved the Flavor Saver tomato, which has a longer shelf life than the conventional tomato. In 1997, the labels became mandatory when the European Union rules in favor of the mandatory labeling of all GMO food products, including animal feed. In 2011, the Bt toxin in humans was discovered when research was conducted in eastern Quebec, where they found Bt toxins, which is found in pesticides, in the blood of pregnant women and showed evidence that it was passed on to the fetus and newborns. So the plan is as followed. To have the Food and Drug Administration order all food companies manufacturing in the United States to label any food product that may contain a GMO. The U.S. federal government should require food to be labeled for GMO because simply we have the right to know what we are consuming and what is in our food. According to my first source, in the Huffington Post, Why Genetically Modified Food Should Be Labeled by Carol Barlow-Loto, says that GMOs are created by forcing a piece of DNA from a totally different species, such as a bacteria or virus, into the DNA of a plant or animal, and changing it. And answers to questions such as, are these foods safe to consume, are still unclear because there has been little testing on them. However, there has been animal studies with negative findings, including organ damage, infertility, and immune system changes. It is clear that we need more research in this area, and at the very least, we should have these foods labeled. Another article titled, To Label or Not to Label, California Prepares to Vote on Genetically Engineered Foods by Richard Dahl from the Environmental Health Perspectives website states that the California Right to Know Genetically Engineered Food Act, also known as Proposition 37, would require that all raw foods products containing GMOs be labeled as genetically engineered, and any processed foods containing a GMO be labeled as partially produced with genetic engineering or may be partially produced with genetic engineering. This proposition just went to vote on November 6, 2014. Those opposing this proposition are an array of groups in the mainstream agribusiness, the grocery industry, and the biotech industry, many of whom think that the cost of implementing new labeling, as well as potential loss of sales to wary consumers who aren't sure what the labels mean and whether they should be worried or not. In a peer-reviewed article titled The Labeling Debate in the United States by Gary Merchant, states that Just Label It, the coalition pushing federal GM labeling, states in their campaign fact sheet, we consumers have a right to know what is in our food. We can make informed decisions about what we buy, eat, and feed our families. My second advantage is the U.S. federal government should require food to be labeled for GMOs because much of the world already requires labeling of genetically modified food. A post on gmoinside.org says, titled 64 Countries Around the World Label GE Food by Elizabeth O'Connell, said that GE food labeling has proved to be a policy that works across countless cultures, benefiting billions of people. 64 countries around the world have already had a GMO labeling law, which raises the question of what do they know that we don't. And some countries don't even have a law because they don't allow any GE food to be imported or cultivated. Countries such as Zambia, Benin, and Serbia. In my second peer-reviewed source, Genetically Modified Product Use and Trade Regulation of the Eastern Union by Andreas Gargasis, states that Eastern European members have adopted a special regulatory regime in order to avoid potential health and environmental hazards caused by the input of biotechnology products. The development of biotechnology has has had the potential of threats, including damage to human health, the environment, and agriculture. And since no technology can guarantee a zero risk. My last source by Mike Barrett, titled Breakdown of GMO Labeling in Each Country from naturalsociety.com, mentions how Hungary destroyed Monsanto cornfields a few years ago. And for those who don't know, Monsanto is a multinational agrochemical and agricultural biotechnology corporation that exists in the States and Missouri. And nations like France and the UK and India took a stand against Monsanto and GMOs alike. Italy banned Monsanto's corn with an 80% public support, and the nation of Bhutan decided to go 100% organic. So there's no question that GMOs are at least potentially dangerous. Thank you.